Welcome to our Cartne video titled, How Can I Avoid Scams? Our guest today is Lacy Darryl Phillips, also known as the Uncle Earl.
Hi, my name is Lacy Darryl Phillips, aka the Uncle Earl. I'm a native New Yorker, but I've traveled the world my whole life in this business we call show. And I'm here today to discuss something that's very important for many up and coming as well as established artists. I've been in the music industry my whole life. My mom was a Northern UK soul star. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and grew up around the world. Music was sort of symbiotic. My mom was pregnant with me actually when she was singing, so I was in the studio bouncing around in the sax. So I think I got all of my juices, my creative juice from that. But to be serious, music has been a part of my life since I can ever remember. And when I started in the business, it wasn't about making money. It was not about being famous. It was the love and joy of the art and meeting great people and just learning and growing together and exchanging ideas and information. So I got caught up in it and lost in it. I never thought about, oh, how much money am I going to make? How famous am I going to be? Because it was like my playground, and as kids we want to play, and sometimes as we get older and become adults and become established, or more, have more notoriety, it becomes a business, more so than ever, and you forget about the play part of it because it's what we love to do. The passion, the drive, the excitement sometimes goes away with business and contracts and people, managers, PR, marketing. All this stuff gets in the way, but we have to remind ourselves, play, the love, the joy. Don't forget that. However, with all that said, there are times when you must put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants and, stand up for yourself. And at times I forgot to do that. And I can say most recently, about 7 years ago, I was approached by a gentleman. He says, "Oh my God, I love your work. You're doing great stuff. I'd love to help you. I think we can take you to Billboard #1." I was, you hear those words, that's like gold, So you get like, bing, your brain just opens up and pops, basically. So I was like, yeah, 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 gung ho right away. And at the time, I was working, I had a show, a podcast, a radio show called The Ultimate Underground Experience. And what I did was I would showcase and highlight up and coming as well as established artists, and I wouldn't charge them because I understand about the business, and how hard it is when you don't have a budget, when you don't have a manager, when you don't have a record label, and you're doing it on your own, sometimes in your house, sometimes in your bedroom. So I would accept their demos, I'd listen to them, and I'd rate them for them, as well as give them airplay. And a lot of times people would get, some opportunities from my airing of their songs. Then their songs lived on my podcast for perpetuity, so people could go back and listen. But that being said, I met this gentleman. He had some artists. He says, "Oh, would you, we could do an exchange." I was like, "Oh, great. I love that." So he says, "If send you some of my artists, and then, maybe I could rep you and shop you around and get you a deal." I was like, "Oh, well, this is like golden." So I accepted the offer, and he sent me some of his artists. I played them on my show. And then he says, "Well, start sending me your stuff so I can get familiar with you." Send in my bios and my music. Some were demos, some were fully produced because I produce everything myself. I'm a songwriter, I'm a singer, I'm a vocal arranger. I do my own backgrounds and leads, and sometimes I bring in guests to be on my things, but I make sure my stuff is correct. So we went into a sort of soft agreement, and he says, "Yes, I'll take you on, and I think I can get you a deal with." I don't know if I can say this, but a big label like Sony Orchard. I was like, "Ooh, that sounds great." And I preface with this: I know that I'm not a young man, and they like youth. However, I come off a little youthful, so when I perform, I jump around. I'm a performer. I'm a Broadway performer, so performance is me, and I become a kid again. But that being said, yes. So we started this relationship, and it was so exciting. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get a deal with a big label! Ah, yay!" So I kept pursuing, and then he presented me with the contract, and I was like, "Wow." Okay, he never mentioned a lot of these points that were on these pages, and it was quite lengthy. So I did take a read of it, and my problem, or should I say my fault, was that I did not consult with a lawyer. They're your best friend, really. Pay the money up front, kids, because you don't want the back end to come and blow you away like it did me. And this is what happened. So he sends me the agreement. I read it over, and I'm like, I was like, well, okay, well, can we talk about something? He's like, no, this is how it is. This is, you have to sign this, and then he took on a whole new persona that I didn't ever see from him before. And I was taken aback, but I said, you know what? The guys helped me out. Let me give him a chance. Maybe it's right there. So I signed the paper. And from there, it went downhill. Once he had my master's, he had my signature. We planned to do a release party. He kept asking me for money, and I gave it unwittingly. So it came up to be about $10,000 that I paid for my own release party. He put out nothing. I had to pay for the venue. I had to pay for the advertising. I had to pay for, there were just all these costs kept coming up. The night of the performance, he came to me asking for money when I'm preparing to perform. I'm like, dude, I just gave you all this money. Well, this came up, this. And then when we got to the venue, it was not what he said it would be. He charged at the door. He took the money at the door as well. I was livid. I had to perform. He came, he showed up high. I don't know what on what, but he was out of his head. He had on a t-shirt and jeans to introduce me. I was destroyed. I mean, I had packed the place. I got the people there. I was ready to perform. I had my live band. I didn't do tracks. I had a band. I had to pay them. People came from out of town. So anyway, so I don't even remember that night because I was boiling. You know that feeling you get when you're just flushed. And I was on automatic, and I know I made it to the show. I saw the people jumping around, waving their hands and clapping, but I really was not. It was an out of body experience. So I say all that to say, never fully put your life in someone's hands. Always keep the reins. Always have someone at your back. Don't think you can do this alone. You need a village to do what you do. We cannot do this alone. I thought I was mighty man, and I found out I was almost Minnie Mouse. But it was, what do you call it? It strengthened me in a way though, because I went through that and now I know what it feels like. So if anyone ever needs to know, I can teach a workshop on it because I actually had it happen to me. All I can say is do your due diligence. Really research people. Don't take any people on their word. And have a second opinion. Don't get too excited and so out of your head that you're like, oh yes, 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 I'll do anything. Don't do anything. It's not worth it. Sometimes it's worth to turn it down and wait for the right opportunity. And I gave you the Cliff's Notes version because I could go on and on about it, but I don't like to talk about people or bring people down. It's all about what you can gain from a situation and move forward and help others. So that's what I'm here to do today.
My entertainment attorney would always say, think of me as insurance. You can pay me now or pay me later. And if it's later, as in taking someone to court or being sued, it's going to cost you a whole lot more. So, Lacy, what would you say would be some red flags or warning signs that a deal might not be legitimate?
I'd say the warning signs would be a few things. Someone who seems overzealous and eager, because it should be a very relaxed environment. You shouldn't feel pressure to sign or pressure to divulge information. It should be a mutual exchange. You should be able to give and take. If you ask a question and someone won't answer you straightforward or right away or say, oh, I'll get back to you, pause. Because if you're giving up, it's like you're opening up your life. You're putting your life in someone's hands, basically. And if you've built your reputation, you've worked hard, you've invested money, you've taken your classes, you've studied, you've written your songs, or you produce them yourself, and you're going to hand that over. It's like a baby. Would you hand your child over to a stranger and just do what you will? So think of it as that. It's your baby. That's one thing. A second thing is before you sign anything, get a second, even a third opinion, and run it by your family too. As many opinions within your circle. I'm not saying just go out in the street, hey, 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 I got this deal, but really get opinions and people who love you, who truly love you, because they don't love you. All they love is the green that they see possibly that they're going to make out of you. They don't see hearts and, oh, we're so passionate as artists. They have no passion. So that's two things. A third thing is if you do decide to sign and they will not negotiate, don't do it. There's always a give and take. The rules are made to be broken. There should be soft rules as well as some standards. But there are some things you should be able to negotiate. Well, if I can't get that, how about give me this? So, you know, you should be able to erase a few lines or add a few addendums. So nothing should be ironclad. That's what I can think of off my head right now.
That's great advice. How can someone check the reputation of the people they're considering working with?
Well, Google works. It works really well. I mean, and in this business, we're really not that far separated from each other once you get in there. I mean, I know at the beginning it's like, oh my God, where I start. But if you do your research and you're around for a few years, you either know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, or you're connected through social media to someone. Do your research, basically. Find out. Or if you look at their register, you find an artist. Reach out to that artist. Hey, how you doing? I'm so and so and so and so. I'm just wondering, how's your experience with blah 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 blah. Is it going well? How do you feel? Is it working out? Just people, because we're all people and we all really want the same things. And some people are open and more receptive than others, but just try to find out everything you can before you just jump head over heels into. It's like a marriage. Basically, you don't just date someone one day and say, "Okay, let's get married." Right? You're gonna date for a while. You're gonna go out. You're gonna meet the parents. Hopefully, right? Some people do. Yeah, but just really research. I'd say research is your friend. Google's your friend. Your social network is your friend. Go to some events that they hold. The people that see how the artists are. Find out about them. Find out a lot of things.
Right. Of course, getting references is important as well. You can check out their website. That's another way. I'd be leery to work with someone who doesn't have a legitimate looking website. There's just no such thing as doing too much research on someone.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to throw in there, during my research, I found out that the person who was a third party in my deal was a convict on top of all that other stuff. He actually had a prison record and had started threatening me when I said I want to get out of this. Yeah, threatened me and says, "Oh, I'm going to come after you." So I had to get a lawyer and get my master's back. I went through that horrible fight. I finally did it. It took me a couple of years, but it happened. But he was threatening me seriously, like bodily harm and life and death and all that. So be careful. Really be careful. Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Do you know if the scam artist was ever caught as a result of your actions, or are they still out there?
Well, I got a very good lawyer, and I think it scared him, but I don't know because I removed myself so it wasn't personal. I didn't want to put myself or my family in harm's way. I let the third party handle it, and it worked out. I got my master's back. Once I got my master's back, I was fine, and I didn't push any further. I was like, I don't want to go after any money. Just get my babies back, because the money comes and goes. So I don't know, honestly. Honestly, don't know, and I haven't cared to find out. Good riddance.
It's sad, but stories like this are in every segment of the business. And many people get so devastated that they can't bring themselves to move on, or at least trust anyone else. Did this experience have that effect on you?
Yes, it did have that effect on me. And what happened in the interim of that? So I'm going to be honest. This happened in 2016. So now we're at 2023. I'm dating myself, but regardless. So I had to take 2 years, almost 2.5 years, just to come down from that experience. I thought about giving up. I said, I'm too old for this. I can't go on. I don't think I can make it because I thought that was my shot. I've been working my whole career to get a deal with a major label, and I finally got one. And then I was shelved and thrown out and just destroyed. So I actually had a nervous breakdown. I didn't want anything to do with music. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was locked up in my room for a couple of months. My friends and family were worried about me. I mean, I didn't go into like drugs or anything like that, but I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't sleeping. I was always in my head and I was sobbing a lot. I was deeply hurt. I was destroyed. So after I got over all that, I said, you know what? I can't let someone be the determinant of my destiny like that. So I decided to start my own label, do my own research, and I started Earl Hits Records, and I've been releasing on that, and it's been going pretty well for the past couple of years. I've been winning awards, and I own my music. I'm like, it's harder. It's hard. It's not easy, but hey, what's this thing called life? It's not easy. Anything worth having is worth fighting for. So I had the fight of my life. So I said, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight for myself, not let someone, fight for me. So it's been up and down, but good. If I can only get mad at myself now, not anybody else.
You're right. It doesn't do any good at this point to let the anger control you. I'm a manager, and I view that as a marriage as well. We have to date first. So I don't take on a management client until I've worked with them for 3 to 6 months. That way I know their work ethic, their level of integrity, and everything else about them.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you just brought back something else. Okay, so at that moment before I did that, I had worked my way up. I had gotten a manager together. I got a booking agent. I got a sponsor. I got sponsors. At that time, everything fell away from me at once. The manager, the booking agent, the sponsor, the money, and he did that. No one liked him. They all left me one by one. And I had built that team. It took me 3 years to build that team. I lost it in 1 month.
So it's not just money that's at stake. It's our reputation, our friends, our associates, and so much more.
Yeah, I'd say don't be afraid. Breathe through the fear because fear is a natural instinct, a natural emotion, but use that as fuel. Breathe into it. Don't shy away from it. And you're only as good as your last effort, and you're not as great as your next. Live in the fray and always strive to be best. Never think you arrive because there's always room to grow. That's the best I can give you right now.
That concludes our video titled, How Can I Avoid Scams? We want to thank our guest Lacy Darryl Phillips, also known as the Uncle Earl, for sharing his incredible story and experience.